This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country and join their calls for justice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Hello, Danger Dogs. It's bonus content time. Tom and Emerald with you. This is Serious Danger, a podcast about green politics in Australia. We already know that. It's produced by Michael the Griffin. It's not an official Greens Party podcast. We are heading west, baby. We have a very special guest returning to the show, Emerald.
WA correspondent. Yes, we are joined again by return guest, the campaigner, writer, and friend of the show, Gerard Mazza. How are you going, Maz?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I got to say, I mean,
You sound
I don't
tired,
know. Yeah. It all feels pretty bleak over here. It probably does where you are too, but can't say that the multiple crises that we face feel like they're resolving themselves anytime soon.
No idea what you're talking about. I think everything's fine. Yes,
Jared, when people ask you how you're doing, they don't actually want to fucking answer, right, mate? It's just, it's like social
I thought this might be my chance
So fake.
to really.
This is a safe space. You can tell us how you're really feeling. Don't worry about Tom. It's showbiz. Everyone's just like, I'm great, darling. So, we wanted to have you back on. We're talking about, of course, the climate and culture wrecking developments in your great state of Western Australia. But also what else is happening in the WA political landscape, the post and boast laws that are coming through, and your recent mistaken identity wrongful arrest. Excited
That's right.
to hear more about that.
Racism against men in hats is
yes, exactly.
is a real
All
problem.
white guys in hats. Yeah.
Yeah, have had it
Can't
too
do
hard
anything
for too
these
long.
days.
That's the most viciously targeted by police of any group in history, some would say. So listeners of the show will probably remember that I spoke to you back in February. You graciously filled in for Tom, and we spoke about a few things. We spoke about Disrupt Borough Pub and the kind of protest movements against gas, the Big State TikTok project that you had been working on. And we also spoke a bit about our predictions for the elections that were coming up at the time. If we cast our minds back all those months ago, it was the WA state election was coming up the following month, I think, and then it was obviously a federal election on the horizon. I wanted to do the thing that's always really annoying, which is, do you remember what you said you thought was going to happen and whether you were right?
Oh, I mean, I think I predicted that Dutton would fall in a heap, which tick. I don't think I necessarily predicted that Labor would do so well, especially on the federal level. Like, I think everyone knew that they would on the WA state level, but one of the kind of interesting things from my perspective of the two elections has been how much the federal parliament now looks like the WA parliament. And I think you see the kind of the arrogance. You see the arrogance of Labor that
Hubris,
we're used to in WA, I think, coming through more and more on the federal level. So look, pretty bleak. I thought that, I was hoping for a minority government. I was worried that we wouldn't get one because everyone was freaking out about Dutton and weren't talking about Labor and weren't talking about gas in particular. Like, I think that the nuclear thing just spooked people so badly when it was never really a threat. And I think that became increasingly obvious and people didn't pivot. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but I think that, pretty frustrating in that a lot of what we've seen subsequently, like, I feel like if the climate and environment movement had been a bit more willing to talk about gas during the election campaign, perhaps Labor wouldn't have felt so emboldened to approve the Northwest Shelf in the way that they did.
Again, on reflection, what an extraordinary gift from the coalition to the Labor Party to come up with that fucking nuclear policy, really. Like, Jesus Christ. Just allowing them, as you say, to avoid all the scrutiny we've talked about before. Emissions were going up. They're still committed to opening new fossil fuel projects and got to avoid any scrutiny or any pushback about that whatsoever because they just got to say, well, we're not going to do the stupid nuclear thing, so we're the better option, you guys.
Yeah, we are.
This is behind the paywall, right? This episode. I'm going to go in a little bit on the enviro groups. Like, some of those enviro groups, I was told before the election, oh, you can't talk about gas. You can't criticize Labor politicians over gas because all you're going to do is you're going to get Dutton elected, which just wasn't true. And then the Enviro group sitting back in their election debrief saying, look at us, we're fantastic. We stopped
kept
the
Dutton
Dunn's
out.
nuclear plan.
We stopped his
kept
nuclear.
Dutton out.
Yeah.
And it's like, mate, he didn't need any help with that. He kept himself out. The nuclear plan was never going anywhere.
Also, the Greens did that, you assholes. That's a Greens win, you pieces of shit.
Greens
You can't claim
win.
credit for that.
Win. Oh, God. I don't know. I mean, well, what is interesting, though, is looking back at the elections before we even get to what happened after it. But the WA election, the Greens did get a positive swing. They were saying, we're going to win, maybe 4 to 6 or 4 or 5 seats in the upper house. They did, in fact, win 4 seats.
They did.
For 4.5% swing in the upper house, put them in balance of power. And there was a massive swing against Labor in the state election, obviously starting from a very high watermark and not enough to strip them of government. But it is a bit of a contrast to what happened in the federal election only a couple of months later, where Labor generally got, either held or increased their vote across the board. Big swings against the Liberals, and Greens' vote kind of just stayed about the same. Like, why? I mean, are they on different kind of tracks? Yeah, you're saying that the federal government or federal parliament's now looking a lot like WA. Are they like on different timelines or something?
Yeah, I don't know. WA's weird. I mean, the Greens ran great candidates and ran a great state campaign. I think that they did a really good job. And yeah, it is exciting now to have those 4 candidates in the upper house.
It was the Anzac Day dance party that fucked it for him in federal, maybe.
Do we talk about that on the show?
I reckon they should have stuck to their guns with that Anzac Day dance party. I would have been there with bells on. But
Can we just say this was like an insane scandal story? The Greens organising a dance party.
I guess there was a lot on.
I think there's a lot going on. I don't think we got to it. But there was a dance party that happened at the night time of of Anzac Day.
When, let's be real, everyone else it's a public holiday. What do Australians do? They get fucked and dance. Like, it's two up. 2 up is normal. But Raven with DJ Adam Band is not. Of course, they ended up, they cancelled the party. I mean, in retrospect, like, I do think they probably could have at least foreseen the risk. And that, like, it seemed like they were a little unprepared for it, but it is like, it's so poor, bad faith bullshit nonsense, obviously, to attack them.
But just be clear, the term Anzac Day dance party implies that that's what was on the fucking poster. Okay, it was a dance party that happened on the 25th, because you really got the impression like the Greens were literally doing this to troll Anzac Day and to show
dancing on the graves of the diggers. Yeah.
I think actually the thing is that in Brisbane, now we're really getting sidetracked, but I feel like in Brisbane we did have the big dance party the night before Anzac Day, potentially.
Oh, that's a little close for comfort. That's arguably worse, because then you're hungover for the dawn service.
Exactly, yeah. And
I think that's worse.
You know what our MPs did? They got up, dragged their fucking asses to the dawn service because they respect our troops. So never say that they don't. Now I'm checking the dates and I'm not totally sure that that's real, but let's pretend it is for comedy purposes on the show.
Yeah. My hot take is they should not have cancelled the dance party. I don't think anyone is saying, I was going to vote for the Greens, but now I'm not because they're holding a dance party. Yeah. And likewise, I don't think anyone's saying, I wasn't going to vote for the Greens, but they cancelled their dance party. So now I'm thinking about it.
Well, the diggers died so that we could dance.
Exactly. Right? Like, that's what they would want.
But it was that one mistake. It was trying to hold a dance party on Anzac Day that meant the Greens didn't end up winning balance of power. Labor won a thumping majority, and then they went right ahead and gave Woodside's Northwest Shelf development the final tick, 50-year extension to the largest fossil fuel development in the Southern Hemisphere. So thank God we kept Dutton out and elected those guys, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, what I've heard is that Labor was surprised by how much backlash there was to the Northwest Shelf approval because, there were like actions at MP offices around the country. There were headlines. There was like a lot of noise around it. And apparently they were not expecting that.
Really?
So it does just make me wonder, like, if we had have brought some of that to the election campaign, maybe they could have felt some of that heat a little bit earlier. But
maybe they were just like this. Well, people weren't banging on about gas during the election and they voted for us and endorsed our pro-gas platform, and so we're all good.
Yeah. I think so. And I think they were surprised that, they hadn't had that degree of backlash for like the future gas strategy, even though there were rumblings or whatever. I think the scale of it did get to them. But so the approval that was made 12 weeks ago now was a provisional approval made by Murray Watt. He gave Woodside a set of conditions.
Mm-hmm.
He gave Woodside a 10-day deadline to respond to those conditions.
Mm-hmm.
They have still not responded to those. So the final approval hasn't actually been given.
They always get extensions, right?
Yeah. And this one was just like an endless extension. It was like, oh, you're going to have 10 days. Okay, you didn't make 10 days. Now you can have as long as you want.
No worries if not.
Yeah. Yeah, very flexible. But there was an article
will
in the
Woodside
AFR.
try to challenge those conditions? I mean, even though they've got the sweetest deal of all fucking time and they've basically co-opted the state apparatus to do whatever the hell they want, will they still push against even the very mild regulations that the government's demanding?
Yeah, so their approval until 2070 isn't good enough for them, and they are pushing back on their conditions, which is why it's taken so long. There was an article in the AFR this weekend saying that they're expected to kind of be locked into negotiations in coming weeks. Apparently the government's conceded some things to them, but not everything they want, But, I mean, the other thing here is that those conditions are still secretive. Murray Watt could, legally, very easily open that up to public consultation. That's not an unknown thing. He could release the conditions. There have been legal experts who've said, it's kind of in the public interest too. And yet he refuses to. He keeps assuring everyone that those conditions will protect the Murujuga rock art because that's what we know that they're around. But yeah, he refuses to say what they are. And Woodside are still engaged in their kind of secret backdoor negotiations with the federal government.
Yeah. He's got a complicated relationship with the Murujuga rock art, doesn't he? I just feel like it's such a incredible self-own to fly to Paris, as Environment Minister Murray Watt did, fly to Paris to lobby the UN World Heritage Committee to confirm, to list the rock art that you are greenlighting the destruction of as a World Heritage asset.
And not only to list it, but to list it with the protective conditions that were recommended by ICOMOS, which is a kind of leading archaeological body. So they had this list of conditions that he lobbied hard to get removed from the World Heritage inscription. So there's this very bizarre situation where on the one hand, he's saying there's no need for protective conditions. Everything's fine. This is deserves World Heritage. Industry and heritage can coexist on the one hand. And then on the other hand, he's saying, oh, the conditions that I can't show you that I'm putting on this Woodside approval are going to protect the Murujuga rock art. So he's kind of arguing on the one hand that it doesn't need protecting and that he's going to do what he can to protect it and he won't tell anyone how. So,
Okay, yeah, I mean, it makes it a lot harder when you can't even see the details of agreements and stuff. But what's your take? I don't suppose you are an expert or scientist in this area, but I know that it's disputed, right, whether there is evidence of, quote, degrading acidic emissions from industrial activity near the petroglyphs. There's a bunch of scientists, around 50 scientists or whatever, who say, oh, no, it's fine, it's not being degraded. Obviously, there's another group of scientists who say, yes, it is. Why? What do you think's the go there?
I mean, it's pretty complicated because basically there was this big 800-page report which came out this year. The government had sat on that report for about a year between when it was submitted by these scientists to when they released it, a week before the approval was made. What some scientists have objected to is not that report. Everyone kind of agrees the report is rigorous. There's a 7-page summary that was written by the state government department. That is what is in dispute. And some scientists are saying that is basically a watering down of the actual findings of the research.
It's the interpretation, basically.
It's the interpretation. And of course, the interpretation is the part that the journalists read and that the media is written about. So there was actually, though, today some FOI documents that came out in the ABC that showed that the lead author of that report, who's been defending it in the media in a private email to the department, had said that the findings had been made rosy by the state government and that the scientists hadn't wanted those findings. all of those 50 scientists have also signed an NDA, so they're not allowed to talk publicly about this. The chief statistician on the report.
We're talking about some rocks. I know they're very important and culturally significant. But why are you signing an NDA when you're doing a science report about the importance of some rock art? Come on.
Isn't the point of science that you do the science and then you share the findings? Like, I'm just doing my experiments just for myself and my friends.
NDA. It's like you're working for fucking Harvey Weinstein or some shit. Jesus Christ.
It's pretty interesting. This chief statistician on the report kind of complained about one of his graphs being altered. He's since quit the report. So the more I think this is kind of like, I think there's more to come here. Like, I think that this is all going to unravel with FOI requests over time, just how much of a hand the WA government have had in framing up this report. I think this could be kind of the big example of, like, we talk about state capture all the time in WA, but it can be a little bit murky as to where it actually occurs. But if you look at just some of the correspondence and some of the statements around this report, like, this could be the kind of the WA 2.0 moment, I think, where WA government, dare I say it, corruption comes out into the fore.
Did you see the week of the approval, Gerard, that the LEAN, the Labour Environmental Action Network, posted an image of a what was it, like a little what are those little animals that poke out of the thing? Fuck, sorry.
Meerkats.
Meerkat, a little meerkat frowning, and it said something like "tough week" or something, something like this, and that was their response. It was
the
it was a tough week.
The psychological burden of being a Western Australian lean member must just be so incredibly difficult. The cognitive dissonance that you must go through. I don't know how those people, like, get up in the morning without their whole worldviews collapsing in on themselves. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Just again, I know we talked about the results of the state election. Labor has 46 seats in the state parliament to Liberals 7. Okay, that's the level of majority and power that we're talking about with the Western Australian Labor Party. Massive majority of the state
and
level,
that's after
massive majority of the federal
like
level.
20% swing against them or something. Insane. Yeah.
Primary vote of 41%, but we can't take on the gas industry because we might lose the next election. You gotta keep that in mind.
No, I think I feel like in WA, I mean, in other parts of the country, federally, etc., I would argue that it's pure just like cynical politics and obviously, Labor making the calculation that for funding and power reasons, they need to, like, keep approving gas. In WA, I kind of think that they believe it. Like, I think that I think Roger Cook is like, I am, like, helping the climate transition by effectively working full time for the gas lobby.
Roger Cook has literally convinced himself that everywhere else in the world emissions need to go down, except for in Western Australia, because ours going up is going to solve the climate crisis. Him and Woodside are going to solve the climate crisis. Don't let those bloody greenies get in the way. They're just trying to stop whatever. He's got it all worked out. Yeah, and I agree. I think they do believe it. And I think, they kind of have to tell themselves that to keep going.
Yeah.
Look, you can forgive me for being a bit black-pilled, right? Surely you can understand.
Honestly, I feel like your tone of voice is last time we spoke to you, I think you've changed. And it's not, look, as a Queensland Green, I empathize. It's tough.
I'm imagining a frowning meerkat, just tough year. Just tough year.
Tough year. It's been a fucking tough
life.
Year. Yeah. It's a tough life.
New profile pic. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because even when there are wins, it's like, is it really a win? Like, you in one respect, you look at the kind of the campaign to recognise Murujuga as, to get it World Heritage List, because under the naive misconception that when you protect something under international heritage, on an internationally recognized heritage register, that you can probably protect it from this, like, incredibly destructive gas project that would fuck it completely. But no, it doesn't even mean that. Like, it must be kind of dispiriting to be like, oh, we did it and they approved it anyway. They're like, no, it's priceless. Yeah, we're going to destroy it. Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's priceless. It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at it while you can.
Yeah. I mean, the whole UNESCO World Heritage thing made me realize just how far like the tentacles of the gas industry and Woodside can reach. Because you think like ICOMOS, world leading archaeological body, makes this recommendation. UN Heritage Committee, founded in this post-war kind of moment of like international togetherness and whatever. They're going to make the decision. But no, Murray Watt invites the ambassador for Kenya over for morning tea. And then he convinces them that, they don't have to worry about what all those experts are saying. They're misguided. And you just do what Murray Watt says and everything's going to be fine. So
yeah, and Murray Watt is just doing what Santos says, like, and what Woodside says.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, he's pretty good at it. I think he's a pretty good politician. And I think that he's played
Vicious
this
insult.
really, really well, this whole scenario. I think he's done a really good job. And I think he's quite enjoyed it. He seems like he kind of gets a little kick out of it. So
that's horrific.
Yeah, I think he's my number one.
Brackets derogatory. Yes.
Derogatory.
Yeah,
Exactly.
highly derogatory.
But then at the same time,
anyway, I should probably say something positive. What is positive is that the World Heritage Listing from Marujuga is genuinely great, and that is something that's been fought for a long time by traditional custodians, and that is fantastic. I think there are also two legal cases that are happening this week, hearings for those, one in the federal court by Marujuga custodian Raylene Cooper, who is asking for her heritage application that she made in 2022, which has been sitting on the minister's desk for like 2 years now, for that to be resolved before the final Northwest Shelf decision. And then another one from Friends of Australian Rock Art challenging the state approval in the Supreme Court here in WA. So, it's not over yet with the Northwest Shelf, and also Woodside still need approval to actually extract the gas. So the Northwest Shelf approval is to process the gas, but they don't have capacity to extract all of that gas.
Is it a state government decision for the actual extraction permit?
So they actually don't, like if you look at the capacity, they don't even know where they're going to get that much capacity from, which is pretty scary, because that means that therefore you've got to think they're looking at like fracking the Kimberley, and they're looking at all these onshore projects which don't even really exist yet. But the biggest chunk of that gas they want to get from the Browse project, which is off the Kimberley coast beneath Scott Reef. They've been trying to get that up for decades. They tried before to get it processed at Broome, and that there was a really strong community campaign which stopped that. Now they're trying to pipe that to the Burrup Hub, to the Northwest Shelf. So that is the biggest chunk of emissions from the Northwest Shelf. That doesn't have state or federal government approvals. And it's like really high CO2 content. It's really dirty. There's carbon capture and storage requirements for that project, which even in the most optimistic scenarios don't look very possible. The WA EPA rejected a previous version of it. Woodside have now put a new version. So that's still kind of in play. I think that, it's unlikely that much gas is going to get processed until 2070. But now I guess there's just going to be a series of fights about individual gas fields and individual sources of gas. So, it's definitely not over. There's still parts of this fight to be had, and hopefully won.
I think that is actually helpful to hear, because to be totally honest, on the other side of the country, I think I had kind of been like, yeah, Woodside's done. Like Northwest Shelf, it's approved. And I didn't even realize that there were still approvals to go. So good reminder, good to hear. What is the plan to stop them?
So there is a campaign that is kind of, I guess, a continuation of the Northwest Shelf campaign, but also focused around Scott Reef itself, because this is like a pristine reef. There's a brutal report that came out last week about coral bleaching in WA at certain reefs, like Rolly Shoals. It's like 90% of reefs are bleached. Ningaloo's been fucked up, which is like, the most iconic spot in WA. But one of the bright spots in that report was that Scott Reef is relatively untouched by coral bleaching. So enter Woodside, who want to put in 50 gas wells surrounding the reef. So that Safe Scott Reef campaign is kind of really going to ratchet up, and hopefully people will be hearing much, much more about that, because that's like 1.6 billion tons of emissions from beneath this pristine reef where there's endangered species, where it's less touched by bleaching than any other reef in WA. So I think that's that's the next step in this fight. We had a pretty cool. There was a rally at the WA Museum on the weekend because there was a Woodside Open Day at the Maritime Museum where Woodside were sponsoring children's activities about marine conservation. So that was
come learn about all the wonderful species of animals that we're sending extinct, kids.
Literally. Yeah. So, but there was a pretty cool Disrupt RFAV action inside the museum. They unveiled a banner kind of over the top of the display, and then there was a rally outside the front of the museum. So people in WA are pretty fired up about this. But yeah, Woodside are continuing their kind of egregious social license building. By the only place you're going to be able to see a coral reef pretty soon is in a museum. So he'll probably have a Woodside logo slapped on it.
I think there's actually
but the main issue is Temu, right? Is young people buying stuff off Temu. I think that's the big problem that Meg O'Neill got attention. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
I mean, I reckon if you look at the analytics on Temu, there's much more boomers than zoomers buying plastic shit. But go off, Meg O'Neill.
Yes, that's extremely true. I feel like there's another one. Yeah, that's right. Shell is their latest one. Queensland Museum also has partnerships with companies like BHP. They had their Project Dig, and now Shell. I think they've launched a new partnership, and it's like there are a lot of people doing some campaigners doing good work. Just pointing out that when you as a museum are dedicated to kind of preserving and showcasing a state's natural history, maybe shouldn't be directly sponsored by and partnering with the same companies that are destroying that natural heritage. But hey, just a crazy thought.
Jesus.
So do you think that are there going to be more people getting arrested outside of CEOs' homes in the near future, potentially?
I mean, I've been thinking about getting on a plane to Queensland, Emerald, to go see Murray Watt. I don't know if you know his address, but
is that's just satire? Just kidding. But at least I guess you don't have a restraining order in place yet that prevents you from going near Murray Watt. So,
well, I've got very exciting news actually. My restraining order against Meg O'Neill expires today.
Oh my God, congratulations.
So I'm going to the Woodside building tomorrow morning.
Why the fuck are you talking to us, mate? Get back out there.
Yes.
Let's go back to back.
Will you be wearing your famous hat? Because we should explain what we're talking about with the hat, the mistaken identity, wrongful arrest. For anyone who missed it, this happened recently related to the restraining order. You got arrested by mistake? Question mark?
Yeah, well, yeah, the police. So, yes, I got a call from the cops to say, can you come into the police station tomorrow? We got to arrest you. And I thought,
no, thank you.
Well, I don't really know what that's about, but sure, I'll come down. So I was getting ready to come down. And then, of course, they rock up at my door. So they're knocking on the door and they're calling me and saying, just tricking. We're here. Hey, surprise. So they come up. They've got this photo of a bloke on the phone wearing a hat, very obviously on the Burrup Peninsula. And I got to say, the first glimpse, I was like, oh, yeah, they got me. That's me. I must have accidentally gone within 100 meters of Woodside facilities when I was up there because the restraining order prevents me from going within 100 meters of any Woodside property. Meg O'Neill at that time was down in Perth. I think she'd met with Murray Watt a day or two previously, actually. But I was in the Pilbara. And so I saw this photo. They were trying to match up the photo with the clothes in my wardrobe.
Amazing.
And the brown hat, I was like, yeah, that looks like my hat. The sunnies, yeah, that looks like my sunnies. The jeans look like my jeans. The blue shirt the guy in the photo was wearing, I was just saying, sorry, guys. I don't have that. That's not my shirt. I don't know if there's something wrong with the photo. That's not my shirt. They were looking through my dirty washing. They were pulling apart my wardrobe looking for this blue shirt.
God.
Anyway, they put me in handcuffs in my room. They marched me out to the...
which is not always a bad thing, but bad in these circumstances,
Yeah. My girlfriend was just like standing there drying her hair and they're kind of just like going through my stuff. It was a bit chaotic. Take me down to the police station, chuck me in the cell, sit there for a few hours. I'm trying to run it through my head because the clothes just didn't match up. I'm like, I didn't
You still
have
think
that.
that it's they've convinced you that you broke
I
the law.
couldn't. I mean, it was a very blurry photo. It was a very blurry photo of a guy in a hat on Murujuga. The hours later,
it's almost like there wasn't enough evidence there to make an arrest. That's almost
perhaps
like the situation there. Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. They get me into the interview room and they've got another photo. And the second that they turn over this photo, I know exactly who it is. In the photo is Murujuga custodian Raylene Cooper, Greens MLC Sophie McNeil, Greens MLC Jess Beckerling. So these are two of our upper house representatives in the WA Parliament. And the fourth figure was a man in a hat who I recognised as Tim Oliver, who works as the head of comms for the Greens in WA. So I said to the officers, I'm afraid this is a case of mistaken identity. You've got the wrong man, and I can direct you in the right direction.
What is the crime? Yeah. Looking like every other white male climate activist officer.
This is democracy manifest.
Exactly. I was just enjoying a succulent Woodside mission, making some content on my phone. But I said to them, Tim Oliver works out of Brad Pettit, Greens MLC Brad Pettit's office, which is 100 metres from the Fremantle Police Station. Him. I said, head down the road. You'll find my friend Tim. He, of course, is allowed to go anywhere he wants. He doesn't have these restrictions on him. Anyway, they looked at each other nervously and kind of shuffled out of the room. I gave them Tim's number. Tim came in, and Tim, by chance, was wearing the blue shirt that they couldn't find in my washing pile. So I think at that point it was case closed.
That's so funny. I just am like, surely at some point though, they really not tell, even when they had the higher quality photo, that like it wasn't you? Did they really still think it was you?
They were really blurry photos. I mean, so Woodside had obviously made a complaint to them about this, which is why they called it in. And the other piece of evidence they had was a signed statement from a Woodside security guard saying that they recognised this person in this vehicle and they immediately recognised them as Gerard Mazza. So I'd be curious to know how that statement came to be, whether, Woodside saw Tim on the CCTV, thought they had me and then got the security guard to make a statement. Who knows? But look, the cops are pretty embarrassed. They did say to me, oh, you can see how we thought we had a case. And I was kind of like, yeah, kind of. But, I think really this one's on Woodside. It's on Woodside for being so eager to nab me.
Yeah. And how much control do they have over the police that they can, I'm not a big kind of law enforcement girl in general, but there are probably other things that the police could have been doing. But this was at the top of their list, apparently, for some reason.
Totally. And to make it serious for a moment, there is a family violence crisis in Western Australia. And I think the fact that Meg O'Neill has taken out restraining orders against non-violent climate activists in the first place is a pretty brazen misuse of that system. But this is now police resources that could be used, on actual family violence cases. Because, you hear stories about people who are attempting to get restraining orders when they need them or attempting to, get help from police when they're in kind of family violence situations and they can't get the police to respond. And yet, they're very happy to spend a day bugging me. So, I think it shows where it's another example in Western Australia of where the priorities of the police are and who they are inclined to protect.
And when someone
also following up when you didn't even do anything, even if that was you there, nothing actually happened. So if you've been causing trouble or something, then maybe okay. But A, it wasn't you, and B, even if it was you, you're just walking around with some Greens LCs and nothing even came out of that. So it's a bizarre case to follow up.
And I was up there, actually accompanying campaigners from ACF who have this thermal imaging camera that they use to look at fugitive emissions on gas plants. It's a pretty cool piece of technology. But we were putting that on the Woodside facilities, looking at emissions that are kind of invisible to the naked eye. And so, all I was doing up there was actually literally documenting the emissions coming out of Woodside. And that's it. And, Meg O'Neill wasn't there. I didn't approach any Woodside workers or try and threaten or intimidate anyone. So, it's pretty outrageous that they're calling in police resources for that. And then, the cherry on top was that it wasn't even me. So,
It wasn't even you. Amazing.
sucked in. I was sitting in the police cell just thinking, sucked in.
Yeah.
You dumb cunts. Like, you have really fucked up. I've won this round.
Yeah. Well, you were probably due for it. I mean, like, did you have any other kind of, you said, so the restraining order has now expired. What was it, 2 years or?
2 years.
2
Yeah,
years.
2 years.
Yeah. And like, you've been through the fucking ringer for what I maintain was a peaceful protest outside a CEO's home for the purpose of, trying to save the world from fucking burning. Like, you've already been, like, I imagine you've been through a lot of shit aside from even the restraining order just because of that, right?
I mean, there's been the legal processes. There's been kind of like the penalties. There's been media coverage, which has been, let's say, less than ideal, making some fairly unsavory implications about me on the front page of the West Australian. Kerry Stokes, of course. That I was a groomer, that I'd groomed.
Oh, because you were with the
because
climate
one
striker.
of the people, the climate striker, when I used to teach, went to the same school that I taught at. I never taught her. We didn't have contact in that setting, but the West Australian ran a headline about teacher's pet was the reference that was made.
What the fuck? Did you
it was
consider suing them for that?
I did, and there were lawyers that were offering to do it and whatnot. But I mean, we kind of prosecuted in the media a bit. I prefer the court of public opinion to the court of the legal court. But
I don't know, man. Kerry Stokes does not have a good record recently in terms of winning defamation suits.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You're
not a groomer. Some other people may be war criminals. I don't know. Take it to the courts.
Yeah. Weigh it up. But and kind of a bit of this is my attempt at doing a segue. Coming back to the fact that yes, you did a peaceful protest. We interviewed you about that. If we posted a clip on our social media about the protest that you took part in, which was determined to be illegal activity, and we were like, hey, it's good that this guy stood up for climate action, we could then potentially be liable for arrest or for charges under new laws that are proposed, these post and boast laws in WA. Is that right?
I mean, possibly, depending on the nature of the post and if you came to WA to post it.
True.
These
might even be a thing in Queensland, but I was like, I feel like we might have these laws already in Queensland, but it might only be for particular offences and
That's right. So there's these new post and boast laws put forward in WA, and a lot of other jurisdictions do have them. Victoria got them last week. I think Queensland have them. New South Wales have them as well. WA's, I mean, look, they're bad laws everywhere. So the idea is that they're meant to stop people like hooning largely and like kids stealing cars and then posting about it on TikTok. And there are a lot of concerns that that just leads to the further criminalisation of kids that disproportionately affects, Indigenous people. And also if you're a kid and you're willing to commit grand theft auto, surely you're not going to be like, actually, I'm not going to steal that car because there's this additional
because I read in
smaller
the news
offense
that I could be liable for an offense.
Oh no, I'm also going to be charged with this lesser offense. And that's going to, I was thinking about stealing this car, but maybe not. So look, they don't work for their stated purpose. And I think they're just really a way for governments to kind of be tough on crime. But the WA legislation is also troubling in that it's more punitive. It's a larger sentence than anywhere else in the country, but also the list of offences covered are much broader.
Right.
So it includes trespass, which was the charge that was incurred in that Meg O'Neill protest. It includes unlawful assembly. It includes disorderly conduct, which can just be like yelling and swearing.
Yeah.
So these are common protest-related offences which are kind of caught up in these laws. It becomes illegal to electronically disseminate images of those protests with the purpose of kind of glorifying them or saying that they're positive. And so, yeah, like the concern is that anyone even just sharing a post about a disrupt borough pub action could fall foul of these laws. These laws are also, it doesn't have to have happened in WA, the offence. So the offence can have happened anywhere in the world. So say like the Palestine Action protest in the UK could conceivably fall under these offences. And in fact, the person in the footage doesn't even have to be found guilty of the offence for you to be charged with this post and boast under this post and boast legislation. So they could not even be charged, but you can be charged for sharing it. So what lawyers have said is that it's just like really badly drafted legislation. Like it's just bad lawmaking. So on one level, there's issues there.
Yeah. Has the government kind of responded to that and been like, oh, no, that's not the intent of this? Or are they just like,
Yeah. They keep saying, the intent is not to capture protesters. Having said that, like one of the offences under the law is like Nazi symbols or Nazi gatherings. So like obviously they've thought about it in terms of some protesters. They keep saying it's not about protests, it's about illegal activity. You can see pretty easily how that becomes, well, that protest is illegal activity.
All protests were illegal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, like it's bad legislation. Its free speech implications, I think, are pretty worrying because it's not even like, when people like me do illegal protests, we expect to get arrested and we expect that like it's part of the calculation, right?
Yeah.
Is that you break the law and you're willing to do that because of the cause that you want to further. But for someone who's just like sharing footage of an action that they thought was cool online, it's a whole different thing. Labor are digging their heels in. It's been referred to the parliamentary committee. So both the Greens and the Liberals opposed this and wanted to send it to the parliamentary committee.
Slay Liberals.
For different reasons,
comrades.
though. Well, the comrades in the Liberals said, hang on a second, this should include all offending. This is nowhere, this doesn't include enough. Good. So they wanted to be stricter. But I reckon they could be convinced to come around on the freedom of speech ground. Certainly some of the kind of like, the pro live sheep export protesters who are farmers here, some of the, like there's some gun rights protesters here at the moment who are fired up. Some of the kind of right-wing protest groups are also quite fired up about post and boast. So I reckon during that.
Sometimes the guns groups, a lot of the time when it comes to like civil liberties and like law enforcement stuff, they're not so bad.
I kind of feel with this one, it's like if you're protesting for like Palestine or for gun rights or for sheep or for climate or for whatever, it's like this does affect you or this could affect you. So I think that, there could be some interesting coalitions that are formed there. So we'll see. I mean, there's 3 months that this is referred to the parliamentary, whatever it's called. We'll see if the government are willing to make any concessions then. And if it's found constitutional, there's some advice from a law professor that it may not be constitutional.
Just imagine this shit in like, the civil rights movement in the 1950s or the anti-Vietnam War protests. Like if Labor governments were in charge then, they would have been prosecuting the people for posting any kind of images representing the protests that break the law, because that's the thing we need to focus on,
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to go that far back. Brad Pettit, the Greens upper house member in WA, made the point that some of Labor's own members could be found guilty under these laws if they applied back in 2017 when they had the Row 8 protests, which Labor supported and came into government on. There were Labor MPs who were posting footage of those protests, which were illegal. So they're literally like outlawing the shit that got them elected. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, they love doing that. Yeah. Labor is, they have very inconsistent views on protests, I'd say.
The unions are also pretty fired up about this one, which is kind of interesting. I think that Labor are coming into conflict with the unions over this.
Absolutely.
They're kind of sticking to their guns. Again, I think there's a deep arrogance which is set in WA Labor.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if, once, like ironically now that it's been pointed out that this could be used to suppress kind of movements or publicity of protests against coal and gas projects, they have got like those corporations in their ears being like, oh, but it does make things harder for us. It is
Mm.
difficult when it's all hyped up, and then these activists they want to copycat, and they want to go and lock themselves onto a coal train or gas pipe, and that's dangerous for us. Like, the way that they frame these things. It's
I mean, meanwhile, Woodside are posting and boasting all over the bloody WA museum.
extremely
They
true.
posted their
Yeah.
sticker up everywhere there.
I'm sorry, but this is all the people fucking have, because Kerry Stokes runs the entire media infrastructure in the state of Western Australia and is basically a mouthpiece for the fossil fuel industry. So, yes, if someone does a protest, all they've got, the payoff is to document that, spread that through democratized media to get more attention to it. But
Post,
of course,
boast,
that's too
cry,
effective.
repeat.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's all we
I
have.
think
We have to shut it down.
Woodside should be punished for their posting and boasting over the weekend. They posted and boasted on their Instagram page a clip of Kerry Stokes, Anthony Albanese, and Madeline King at the Resources Showcase in Perth, showing off Woodside's Boston Dynamics dog to Albo and Madeline King. That's some egregious posting and boasting, which I'd like to see outlawed.
Have you guys?
What did they do with the dog?
Are you on the
How does the dog go?
Well, are you on the algorithm of robot slurs on?
Oh yeah, what are they called? Clankers.
Clankers, you fucking clanker, wire back, you BOB bag of bolts. My boyfriend is obsessed with these videos. No daughter of mine will be bringing home no damn clanker. That's what they will be calling that robot dog. Damn clanker.
Yeah. Woodside have a clanker dog. I'm pretty sure the IDF have one of the same model. So absolutely. I don't know. They're scary looking things. But,
they look a lot like the Black Mirror episode where they had the robot killer robot dogs. Which is, cliche.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they use them for security up on the burrup. So maybe that's where the blurry CCTV came from. Who knows?
That's awesome. We're so fucked. So looking ahead to brighter things, we persist, right? Like, obviously you're not giving up. You say, Northwest Shelf isn't done. There are many fights ahead. And I was curious in particular, like we said, you're our WA correspondent. You obviously have this real focus on WA in particular. Wanted to hear your pitch on like why you still make the calculation that what I'm doing here in this little, well, large but oft forgotten state, why is it so important, even on the global scale?
I mean, I think it's because our emissions are so big. So we're such an oversized player. So it's kind of like we're so responsible for the climate crisis that like someone's got to be doing this shit. I also think that like the narrative that WA is holding back the rest of the country and that WA is like, so captured by the fossil fuel industry maybe is cutting through on a federal level and nationally. And I think that that's quite useful. Yeah, I think Queensland's similar, right? Queensland and WA together like do kind of have that role. And I think that can be quite useful for pointing to some of the contradictions within federal Labor, that real sense that like on the one hand, you've got these WA MPs who love gas. And then on the other hand, you've got these progressive MPs in kind of Sydney and Melbourne who are like wanting to distance themselves from that. So I think drawing out those tensions is quite a useful thing to do.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, I think that like, as you said, the Greens did pretty well in the last state election. There were some independents who did pretty well in the last state and federal elections here in WA. Like, I think that there's room to kind of break some of the cracks here, because I do think that like it is manufactured by Kerry Stokes and the WA media and by the kind of corporate capture, how much of love Western Australia has for the gas industry. Like, I don't think it's actually true. And so I think there's work to be done there to kind of break some of that down and draw it out. So, I mean, look, we got to keep going because it's the right thing to do, I guess. But also, no other choice. But like, I think also they are vulnerable in weird ways, like even the fact that they feel the need to host this open day at the WA Museum about marine life suggests that they're trying to.
Well, they wouldn't be scouring, sending the cops after you, like looking through photos to try and get you arrested if they weren't worried about the opposition.
Yeah. I think they know that at the end of the day that it has a shelf life, what they're doing, and they're just trying to get as much as they can. So I guess our job is to try and stop that. But yeah, and I mean, I just really hope, to just bring it back to elections, I just hope come the next federal election that, certain progressive people and, the climate and environment movement aren't making some of the same mistakes and are willing to go in on Labor and are willing to go pretty hard. Because we're going to have Labor governments for a while. It would be way better if they had less seats, and if we had, if they had, dare I say it, a minority government. That was looking like a fairly likely scenario not too long ago. Now it seems kind of fantastical. But I think, sorry, go on.
I've been thinking, I have been obviously reflecting a lot and thinking a lot, and shout out to Liam Flannery, who has been a guest on the show before, Queensland Greens campaigner, also has been doing the Floodcast. Shout out to Floodcast podcast. It's been putting out episodes again about the Queensland Greens movement. And I was having a conversation with him where I was kind of being like, look, it's hard. Like, why are we doing this? Is there any point? And he's like, even on a kind of pragmatic level, if you look at, Australia is a major contributor to global emissions. If you look at the biggest challenges that we face, I mean, obviously we have an ongoing genocide, we have an equality crisis, we have the climate crisis. And even if you can play a role in reducing the amount of coal and gas that is extracted and exported from Australia over the next couple of decades, that is absolutely worth that. The impacts of that could be massive for the entire world. And so it feels as though, you are a little ant pushing on an enormous boulder, but there's actually kind of a logical and a pragmatic calculation there in terms of where you're putting your effort. And absolutely, in WA, where you're extracting and exporting so much gas, it is absolutely worthwhile. And it is worth remembering that, even though it feels as though the pendulum has swung one way at the moment, it doesn't, it is more fragile than you think. And you look at even, for example, the way that the government has suddenly kind of switched its tone. It's obviously not doing enough, but on Palestine, it can do the same. On climate, it can be gas is good, gas is good, gas is good. And then a few advisors will realize that actually this isn't politically expedient for us anymore. And it can be that easy. And it's you just need to remember that, yes, it is fucking hard, but it's not impossible. And it can happen kind of even more quickly than you might expect sometimes, that breakthrough.
Yeah, and just also the fact that there were those 200, 300,000 people on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, a few weeks ago. That's incredible. I don't think anyone would have really predicted that a month ahead. So, social movements can also rise up pretty quickly take off in kind of unpredictable ways. That was sick, and that was pretty inspiring to me, actually. Yeah.
Not to bring the mood down, but in response to a crisis. And if you really want my black pill prediction, it's to me, it's going to be another disastrous bushfire season. It's going to be another climate disaster of some incidents, a heat wave, massive floods. If you cast your mind back to 2020 before the pandemic kicked in, that was all we were thinking about, and it felt like massive turning point kind of energy. And then, of course, everything went to shit. That's my prediction, at least in this country. I think we're going to have one more massive climate disaster. And that will turn which is horrific. That's what it's going to have to take. But it really does seem to be that's the only way to shake up the political consensus.
But waiting for that to happen, and as though that'll be enough to just flick the switch,
No.
It's not enough. You need to. If we've all given up and gone home and stopped keeping the pressure on to actually address the factors that led to that. That can happen, and they'll just continue down the same track. But that could be if we've still got the movement that's built and ready to act. And is acting the whole time, then that could be the event that kind of pushes the pendulum just over into the right direction. Yeah.
Speaking of doomerism, did you see that story from last month about David Suzuki? And it was a headline saying David Suzuki says it's too late, right? And that was doing the rounds. But then I think I read something about this, that it's not exactly what he says. His stance is more nuanced. He acknowledges the planet has passed critical tipping points and that the window for gradual change is closing. However, he emphasizes that it's not too late to avoid the worst consequences and solutions exist. He advocates for system change and a shift in priorities, urging immediate and bold action to transition to a low-carbon future. So Suzuki hasn't given up, everybody. If you see that headline, that's not good.
Well, it's like the Great Barrier Reef is cooked. The Great Barrier Reef is gone. But hey, Scott Reef.
Scott Reef is still there for now. Yeah, I mean, I think that like too late has become at this point of the game like not that useful concept, right? Because for some things it is too late, but there's other things that it's not. So
yes. What is too late?
We do what we can.
For what? Like we're still here. So
yeah.
yeah. Well,
thank you very much for joining us, Maz. Yes,
no worries. I enjoyed the kind of emotional roller coaster that we went on together there. That was,
every Australian campaigner's brain at the moment. Yeah.
Let's have a dance party. Come on, Green's dance party right here.
Yeah.
Dancing on the grave of the earth. Please tell the good people listening, the patrons of Serious Danger, the Danger Dogs, how they can find out more about your work and support what you're doing.
You can go to my website, gerardmazza.com. I've got a little newsletter there that you can subscribe to. I've also got on TikTok and on Instagram as Big State. So, yeah, that's where I am. And also, if people want to know more about Scott Reef, there's an excellent kind of half-hour documentary. Tim Winton, John Butler, Brinkley Davis, and some other people went on a little bit of a journey to Scott Reef last year. It's called Coral's Last Stand, www.coralslaststand.com.au. You can watch that doco, learn more about Scott Reef and Woodside's plans for browse, how it connects to the Northwest Shelf, how this whole picture looks. So, yeah, I'd encourage people to check that one out.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Danger Dogs, for being patrons and helping us keep the show running and pay Mike and give you bonus content like this. If you liked it, tell a friend, encourage them to sign up, or encourage them to just listen to the free show, obviously, as well. We love your work, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Serious Danger Australia.